Hello, Shane.
Hello, Rick. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for your time today, Shane. Or I'm not sure what time it is where you are.
Yeah, it's middle of the day, no problem.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, look, there's no surprises here, mate. I'm a long-term fan. I've been following you back in the WP Shirley days, and you've certainly come a long way. That's for sure and certain.
Yeah, I've done my best.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, so really, we don't necessarily need to do any phantasmagorical introductions. We just sort of jump straight into it and have a conversation so we can share it with the My Future Business audience.
yeah, that sounds good. Yeah,
Excellent. So, what's been happening?
in general or in business.
No. More about you, Shane. We tend to focus more about the people behind the businesses at My Future Business because I think there's a lot
Mhm.
of focus on I guess the functional aspects and the technology behind it, which we'll touch on. But
Mhm.
I'm personally keen to share a little bit about Shane Melaugh rather than just Thrive themes and things like that. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Excellent, excellent.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So yeah, to answer your question, I think one of the biggest shifts for me lately has been that my focus is much more now on kind of mentorship and leadership than it used to be.
okay,
So,
righto.
that's something that I've really noticed. I mean, I think that's something in general as an entrepreneur that I find quite fascinating is just how much the role, how much my role changes as the business grows and evolves.
Right.
And I've noticed that, my focus is now much more on people than on, it used to be much more on, strategy, technique,
Hmm.
technology, that kind of thing. And it's much more about people. That's kind of the direction it seems to be going in. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I obviously receive your mailings, and I notice that you've got a wonderful team that back you up with support videos, and I'm always deeply intrigued by what I'm seeing and how they're presented and just the experience overall. So, how did the team come together? Are they some people that you know, or have you had to search them out or hire them?
Yeah. So we have, there's actually many different ways in which we recruit. We currently, as we're recording this, about 50 people. The team is about 50 people strong. And I think that we've really tried many things for hiring because, well, it's quite tricky to do hiring well.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think one of the greatest successes we've had has been that we hired people for the marketing team through doing apprenticeships.
Right.
So basically, we would invite people to apply to come work as apprentices on location with us for about 3 months at a time,
Okay.
and so that would be an opportunity for us to assess the candidates and also train them.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, where we really the goal was just to give these people as much like marketing know-how and experience as we can in
Hmm.
the span of 3 months. And out of that, we ended up hiring far more people than I thought.
Hmm.
Just because we found so many qualified candidates. So that was a big success for us. Yeah.
So you seem to have shifted into another gear. Are you very comfortable in the management side of people, or are you more technical? I mean, would you seem to
No,
be?
I'm certainly not comfortable, but that's also by choice. I mean, that's very important to me is that I make sure that I want to perform at my best, and the only way I can perform at my best is that I make sure that I'm always at the edge of my comfort zone. So certainly not comfortable with the with the role I have and the work I do,
Hmm.
but that's deliberate. As soon as I get comfortable, I see what I can do to challenge myself again.
Well, there's some massive takeaways for our audience. Is that staying out of your comfort zone, and that really, I suspect, Shane, drives some breakthroughs in your day to day business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you want.
Right.
I think in this like in this kind of space, I kind of move in this space of online entrepreneurs and digital nomads, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And here I see a lot of people, their ambition is to have a lifestyle business. So basically a business that simply supports their lifestyle, right? They want to be able to move around, live wherever they want. They want to be able to obviously, sustain themselves, right? Pay the bills and all that.
Yeah.
And that's it. And if that's what you want, then I think the approach has to be quite a different one, because if that's all I wanted, I could have stopped growing, years ago now.
Yeah.
But for me, the business is a vehicle to do more than just provide a lifestyle for me, right? The business is a vehicle for me for personal growth, but it's more importantly a vehicle. It should also be a vehicle for growth for everyone who works here, and it should be it's the business ultimately. My ideal for what the business should be is that it's a machine that produces value, right? A machine that is really, really good at producing value. And so, and because of that, for me, it's very, very important that we're always growing and that we don't just go, oh, this is fine, this is profitable, let's sit back and relax.
So, Shane, how do you keep a sizable team of, 50 plus people in line with your, I guess, both Paul and yourself's vision for the business?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Yeah, I figured it might be. I mean, because my future business actually focuses on the needs of traditional small businesses in Australia. And, we deal with exactly these types of things in terms of human resources management and, leadership and all these sorts of things. So that's really quite interesting. I mean, it's a matter of ducking and weaving, I guess, in many respects, and doing what you can to get by.
I mean, I can tell you what I've tried, or what we try to do so far is that one of the things that's important is that we kind of continually communicate the vision, because it's easy for anyone, for anyone who's been here and who's been working for us since the beginning or since the early days.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they understand the vision, they're on board with it and so on. But we have people working here who've only been working here for a few months, right?
Yeah.
And we always have new people coming in. And I think one of the things, a mistake that can easily be made is that you think, oh, everybody knows my vision. I've talked about it before. But who was in the room when you talked about it, right? And so there is an aspect of, I mean, it's kind of an inside joke in this company as well, that every time we have a general meeting, there are some things that everybody knows I'm going to talk about, right? Everybody knows I'm going to bring up the same stuff again. And we have a chuckle about it, but I do it on purpose because I know that some people have not heard this before. Sure, some people are hearing it for the 10th time, and I try to mix it up a little bit to make it interesting for them too. But some people have never heard this before.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I try to remind myself is like, okay, I have to be mindful that not everyone has been here the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I also think is very important is that you have to live your values. And of course, that's like a platitude, right? Oh, you have to live your values. Okay, what else is new? But I think it's actually, if you think about, what that means and how to do it, it can be very difficult because out of the 50 people who work here, many of them almost never work directly with me. So then it becomes important that everybody who works directly with me has to see me doing the stuff that's important to us. They have to see in my character, in my behavior, what our values are essentially. And then hopefully they will carry that on to and live it and demonstrate it for the people that they work with directly. Because I do think this is a typical, if we make fun of big corporations, I think that's one of the things that is where corporations are an easy target, right? They'll have a beautiful mission statement with flowery language and all that.
Yeah.
But it's like a joke. Nobody lives that, right? The mission statement is something super idealistic, but the day-to-day is you sit in the cubicle and you, I don't know, throw Post-it notes over the walls to see what happens because... And it's totally not in line with this stated vision.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that happens is sure, someone in the company somewhere at one point thought this is important, but unless you can demonstrate it and live it, it's the problem of, like, actions speak much, much louder than words. And
Yeah.
unless there's action to back these words up, really the words, if you have a vision statement or something like that, should simply be a description of what happens. You can't make something real by just writing it down
No, that's
and then
right.
hoping that somehow it will happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't have, I obviously don't have the solution for this, but these are the two things I try to do. Is I try to repeat the vision often, and I try to live it.
Well, I'm glad I touched on a spot that's obviously important for you, and it's certainly a challenge for most people that we've spoken with over the years. Shane, where are you? Whereabouts in the world are you?
Right now, I'm in a city called Cluj in Romania,
Okay.
and this is where most of our developers are working from.
Okay. Did you grow up there, or is this No? Okay. So
I grew up in Switzerland, and I ended up here, or I'm here at the moment through. Yeah, basically, this is a pretty good place for IT, for IT people. That's why we are here.
Okay, fine. So when you get time, if at all, what do you do with yourself when you're not working, Shane? Do you have something that you enjoy doing?
Sure, yeah. I have. So one of the things, for example, is I'm an avid reader. I've gotten, in fact, reading to me it almost makes no sense. Like the economics of books essentially makes no sense to me, because the amount of value I've gotten out of books is just ridiculous. And what have I spent? I've probably spent maybe a few $1,000s on books.
Yeah, it's disproportionate.
During the course of my life.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's totally disproportionate with what I've gotten out of them. So because of that, I'm always very motivated to read, and I try to. It's one of those things that I have to work on. What will happen to me often is that I get quote unquote too busy to read.
Yeah.
And then I remember that that's ridiculous because of this disproportionate value, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's something I have to work on, but I'm always very eager to read and discover new books. So that's something I do. And then another cornerstone of my life is exercise, because in my work, in my day-to-day work, I generally do what I'm doing right now. I'm sitting down looking at a screen. And it's very, very important to me that I can counterbalance that with some exercise.
Well, they say you have to drive your emotion. You need emotion, and you need to look after that body that we all call a temple. I mean, you've only got one of them, and I look at audiobooks. Are you like a physical book reader, or are you an Audible type guy?
I have a Kindle. Which I love. Because I like physical books, but it's just so much more practical to have this one little device with all the books on it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But I also do audiobooks. So especially when I'm driving, when I often travel by car, and when I know that I'm going to spend a few days driving from some place to another place, I tend to load up on some audiobooks to listen to on the way, and I really like that. Yeah.
So 2 questions: Android or iPhone?
Android.
Good man. I've just purchased the Edge 7, and I've never been happier. It's an amazing device. And
good.
Yeah, just a bit of a side note for everybody who's listening. And in terms of books, what's the most memorable that you've had recently, Shane, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, no, of course. Actually, it's very difficult to pick one, because I've actually recently read several books that it's almost too much, actually. I've read so many books that I found so important that I almost don't know. It's almost overwhelming, actually.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, it's really difficult for me to make a choice. So I'll tell you the ones that are most, the ones that I feel that the greatest urge to mention are Mindset by Carol Dweck and Peak by Anders Ericsson.
Okay, yep.
And these two books are very complementary, because the Mindset book is a book about the importance of your mindset, about the importance about the way you think about the world, the way you communicate about the world. That lays a foundation of whether you believe that you can improve and whether you will be able to improve. So depending on your mindset, you might believe that oh, if I'm bad at something, I'm just bad at something, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might believe that, oh, if I'm bad at something, it doesn't mean I can't get better at it. And this is a very fundamental thing. And Carol Dweck is a researcher who's dedicated her life to researching like the difference, this profound difference that a difference in mindset makes.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of the foundational book. And Peak is a book by another researcher who's done a tremendous amount of work on how the best performers in the world become as good as they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it is all about skill building. You know, one of the things he says is that he has never found a case of, you know, a prodigy or an exceptional talent that couldn't be explained once you actually look at what does this person do, how do they practice, how do they think, how do they exercise, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he basically says talent doesn't exist. If you want to be good at something, it's a matter of doing the right things in the right sequence.
Wow.
So these two books I find are very, very complementary, because if you have the wrong mindset, you will read Peak and you just won't believe it.
Yeah.
But if you have the right mindset, you will then read Peak and it will change your life, basically, because that's the recipe for how to put the growth mindset into action. So those two books, I think, I can recommend to anyone.
Well, they'll be going onto my my Audible list, and you know, coming out of that part of the conversation, I'm noticing the about page, and I'm looking at you and Paul alongside, and you know, you talk about failing several times, and you know, when the struggles are upon you, Shane, how did you deal with it? Did you feel like giving up at any stage? Do you go, this is just way too hard? Because, you know, I think our audience really loves that inspirational story, and that's why I try to only interview the best people. So are you able to tell me about any struggles that you've experienced?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had hard times, but I think, you know, the thing about giving up is, I think for me, I often felt like there wasn't a real alternative, actually, because I'd already found out that I'm pretty much unemployable.
Yeah.
I had trouble finding jobs, and when I had jobs, I had trouble keeping them, and it didn't seem to me like there was a good alternative.
Yeah,
Like,
you weren't a good employee.
Felt like, yeah, I felt like I just have to make this work. I have to make this work. This is what I need to do. And I do think that, you know, fairly early on in my entrepreneurial journey, I think I did have the right mindset, which is that I did believe that even though I kept failing, and I really had many failures, I had some really tough times because of bad decisions I'd made.
Yeah.
But I always felt like, you know, I never felt like a victim. Okay, I never felt like, oh, the world is just unfair, or I just don't have, I don't have the IQ to do this or something like that. I always felt like, okay, I messed up. I'm in trouble right now because I made some bad decisions, but I could have made better decisions, and I could be in a better position now. So if I keep making, you know, if I keep learning to make the right decisions, if I keep learning to make the right moves in the future, it will work out. And, you know, actually, as I'm saying this, I don't want to overemphasize the importance of making decisions. Making the right decisions only becomes important once you have a really strong work ethic.
Yeah. So
because if you're sitting around not working, it doesn't matter what you decide. But if you have really strong work ethic and you know you can keep it up, you just know whatever happens, I'm going to just keep moving forward. Yeah. And then it becomes a matter of what decision that, you know, what direction do I go in?
Thank you. I mean, that's amazing. We're essentially talking about another topic we've been going over recently, is the compound effect, Shane. And that, you know, you can go tangentially from a point in time and start making a really bad decision and compound that bad decision by making decisions after decisions, regardless if they're good. Once you're on I guess a negative tangent compared to where you could have gone, you know, it only compounds that problem. So, you know, how do you know, I guess, is when you're on the right track. I suspect that's when you're starting to get results.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. That's what matters primarily, especially in the beginning. I think it's very important that you have to get to the point where you're no longer struggling for money all the time. I think that's you know, that's a very important milestone to reach. And the reason I bring that up is because I've recently talked to several people who are starting companies and been talking to them and kind of advising them a little bit. And one of the things I noticed is that my advice always tends to be like, okay, you have a basic business idea here.
Yeah.
Now find out how you can get money as soon as possible out of this. Find out, is there a way to charge more? Who's the client who can give you the most money here? Because even if that's not maybe in line with the final vision of what you want your business to do, I think a good focus is to first, within the thing that your business is supposed to do, within your area of expertise or interest, basically find the biggest client, right? Find the biggest client who can get you to the point where you don't have to worry about being able to pay the bills as soon as possible. And upon that foundation, you can then build towards your dreams and goals and greater ambitions.
Because at the end of the day, Shane, if you're targeting, I guess, the small fry as opposed to the whale, you'll always be struggling, won't you?
Well, it might be. I mean, not necessarily, because there's a lot of small fry, right? You can do something where it's like, okay, large volume, low per unit income, but it's probably not the best place to start, right? It's much better to start with kind of big chunks of money coming in, and then you can say, okay, now we're going to build this system, this factory that serves all these small units of value at a lower price, and we can grow from there. But I think it's a bad idea to start with something where you need great volume for to be successful, right?
Yeah.
Another way I've put this in the past is that I've said you should avoid being in a superstar business. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of businesses where the top players make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And an example of that would be an example of that would be an app store.
Yeah.
Right? You decide to make a game for an app store, a free game for an app store. Because sure, it's true, and we hear these stories every once in a while. Some game explodes like Candy Crush or whatever, and the person or the company who made it, they make just untold amounts of money. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The problem is that these are the superstars on the App Store. The superstar on the App Store, like the top 2 to 3 apps, make ridiculous amounts of money. But if you're not in that top 1%, if you're not actually in that top 0.001%, you're making no money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a business scenario where you have to. The only way to win is to hit it big. There's no middle ground. You're either broke or you're rich. There's no middle ground.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's something I always recommend avoid that, because with my kinds of businesses, like for example, in the WordPress space, we are not the number one player in the WordPress space. We're getting there, right? I think now we are one of the, let's say, top 4 or 5, something like that, players in the space. But even before that, even before we were even in the top 10, this was a profitable business.
Yeah.
When nobody knew about Thrive Themes, basically, right?
Yeah.
When nobody knew about us, we were already profitable. We could pay our bills. It was all fine because we didn't have to wait for the big break to start making money.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important.
Well, part of a lot of the businesses that we talk to, they are SaaS models, and I have a personal interest in software as a service, and it's interesting. I've just received an offer to buy a lifetime startup sort of package, if you like, where everybody else will pay subscription, but because I'm an early mover, just as I was with Thrive Themes, I can buy this one off to get that that initial influx of cash. What's your view on those who are wanting to start a software business? Is it a viable option now, or is it very much like the App Store? I mean, if we talk away from app stores and we start talking, I don't know, for the sake of my future business listeners who are primarily traditional small business owners who have multiple areas that they're trying to manage, and I don't necessarily see too many software interfaces that actually serve the needs of small businesses like that. How difficult is that? Is that something that's worthwhile pursuing? And what's your view for new people?
So for sure, I mean, software isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
And I think it seems to me that the demanded complexity of what we expect from software is of course increasing, but so is access to technology. So, to give you an example, if you build an app, your users will expect near instantaneous excellent search, right? You simply come to expect that. You can't, if there's any kind of, need for searching in your app, you cannot, like, it will be a huge problem if your search is slow and returns irrelevant results and stuff like that. But the good thing is, so, on the one side, people's expectations have increased there, but the good thing is you actually don't have to build your own search engine, because access to search APIs, access to, basically, you plug into someone else's search thing and it works in your app, and you don't have to program it, you don't have to build it, you just have to pay a fee for it. So access to this has become easier. And the same is basically for everything. You can get. So what I'm trying to say is, while it is the software that will do well is getting more complex, demands are higher, and so on, it's also becoming easier to build that kind of software. So I think the two balance out. And so the opportunity there and the potential cost of getting into it are not prohibitive. I think that's still a good market to get into. However, you also have to, let's be clear about this. You have to, if you're going to do SaaS, then you have to become good at managing software development and deployment and maintenance and all that. And that's a whole can of worms that you just have to be prepared for, right? It's not going to be an easy ride. But
at the end of the day, if people that are listening to this are passionate about that, what Shane's obviously suggesting is that there is a way forward, and I suspect I'm seeing a lot of people now starting to teach how people who don't have any programming background or anything like that, wouldn't know a line of code if it hit them in the head, how to actually develop software through the assistance of others and actually project manage it. So, there is a way forward for those who are interested in doing that. So Shane, what's on the boil now? I've seen personally a lot of activity in Thrive themes. There's obviously plugins aplenty. There's the there's the premium offers. There's the all these themes. What next? I'm just amazed to see what you're doing.
Well, we have a lot of work still to do, for sure. We've been hard at work at a complete rebuild of our visual editor, which will be the foundation for everything we do in the future. So that's something I hope we will be able to release soon. On the Thrive theme side, and then there's obviously new themes. There's an endless list of things that we still need to do, and that people are asking us to do as well, which is great. We get a lot of people come to us and say, I want you guys to make a membership solution, for example. And people tell us this all the time, which is great to see, because they don't tell us that for lack of other membership solutions. What they're basically saying is, I trust that you guys can do it better. And that's a good position to be in. So we've got a lot of work there. And then on the other side, we have activegrowth.com, where we're working on a podcast that will launch soon, and we're working on bringing content and activity back there as well. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Now we'll look at I use another membership script for my future business, and it seems to me like a bit of a patchwork quilt of assembly line WordPress, and it does work if you know what you're doing, and many mistakes have been made along the way, but it'd be nice, just like your apprentice theme. I'm not sure it's called apprentice theme, but it has the training module in there. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, I wonder which way they're going here, because I actually use these themes for clients of ours, and they love that, the ability to do a pseudo membership just by using this theme. So it's great. It's awesome work. So
thank you.
So let me just think about the upcoming questions that I have. Oh, that's one I wanted to ask you. There are so many things to think about in a business. You've got, what have you got? Your conversions to focus on, to do the traffic, the copywriting, the podcasting, and you brought out the Thrive University recently. With all of these moving parts in the business considered, how big would the Thrive University ultimately be? What in terms of content? Where's that going?
Well, we want the current plan anyway is to keep Thrive University focused on kind of the core topics of what we do at Thrive Themes, which is helping you build a more effective website.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that conversion focus, right? The things that you need to make your content and your website and your landing pages and so on more effective.
Yeah.
That is the main focus. So Thrive University isn't going to be a place for everything, essentially, right? It's not going to be, learn absolutely everything related to running a business.
Right.
That's not the goal. So we do want to keep like a tighter focus there.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is, I mean, we will continue releasing new courses, and we are also planning to release. So right now we have a lot of, let's say, small to medium sized courses, right? I think the most extensive one is probably like 2.5 hours or so of content.
Yeah.
And but we also plan to add premium level content where we will have very extensive, very in-depth training in Thrive University. And really the goal for it is to be, well, we also made it in response to something that a lot of people told us in comments and emails and so on. Something a lot of people have told us is that, they don't, obviously they come to us primarily for the software, but they often end up coming back for the content, and because they want to learn from us, because we have a certain perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would suggest that was true. I mean, I'm frequently coming back and looking forward to the emails, and check the stats. They're always getting open because I know, like, and trust you is the old marketing 101 rule, isn't it? People have got that familiarity with you.
Exactly. So yeah, we noticed that people are basically asking us, basically telling us they would rather learn things from us than elsewhere, because what we teach is tied in with the tools that they're using anyway, and we have a certain attention to detail that is rare to find, I guess. And so that's one of the reasons we made Thrive University, because we wanted to give people a platform where they know, okay, if I want to learn something related to improving my website, that's the best place to go, right? I don't have to wonder and, I don't know, search the internet and search Amazon and try and figure out what should I go. If I want to make my website more effective, Thrive University is the first place I go and look. That's kind of the goal, is that's how you feel about it.
Yeah. So we've basically come to the conclusion of the call, Shane. I've had an amazing half an hour with you, and I feel extremely privileged to have had some time with you. I admire what both yourself and Paul are doing, and thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me, Rick. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk again soon.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.